Hello here. Just making a video quick, kind of test my skills out by showing Karazhan fully soloed by a Paladin with pretty bad gear. But the first fight here is Autumn the Huntsman, and you do have to clear all the trash coming up to him before you can actually start the fight. That's just AoE. The only real abilities that you really have to watch for in the fight here is he does put a curse on you that you see just put on right there. That decreases your hit chance by 50%. If you can remove that, then it will shorten the fight by a good bit. You'll see in the last phase here they kind of come together, but they don't really gain any more abilities. They can stun you a little bit, but that's about it. What people really farm him for is he drops a really rare mount that kind of looks like the horseman's mount, but with red fire on the feet. He also has, for transmog purposes, a fairly unique steel hawk crossbow that literally looks like a hawk made out of steel. So just watch out for that if you're a hunter, because basically any class can take him down with relative ease. He doesn't do much damage, but this is the first boss here. The next boss coming up is Morose. Now you do have to clear out his little dining guests, but you don't have to clear out anything outside of his room here before you start the fight. You'll notice I've marked two of his little guests. Those are the two priests. One of them can mana burn, which I don't want to deal with, and the other one kind of slightly heals them a little bit. At this point in gear, though, it doesn't really matter that much. You can just let your AoE ability or whatever take care of them. The others don't really do enough to really care about killing them before his vanish, which he'll do here in just a moment, and just finish them off while he's gone. Now when he comes back, he does still garrote you, which is some pretty consistent damage, but at 85 it really doesn't matter anymore. He drops the mongoose enchant if you happen to be an enchanter. That one still makes a good bit of money. And he also has a dagger that looks pretty nice if you're a rogue or even a caster. The next boss here is totally optional. You don't have to really do any trash coming to her either, but is just really tank and spank. For my paladin here, it's pretty frustrating because she puts a silence on you like every second or so for just a blink of an eye, basically. So you have to kind of tap your hotkeys a while to get her, but she doesn't really do any damage, and she goes down in less than a minute. But she also doesn't drop very much either for transmog or anything else, so you can pretty safely skip her if you're just going into Karazhan to experience everything solo. Let's see, she went down pretty quick there. Now I got Wizard of Oz in the Opera event, which is probably one of the easiest ones. Just know that the Big Bad Wolf is pretty easy as well, but he will turn you into Little Red Riding Hood, and you can't really do anything while you're Little Red Riding Hood, but you're in no fear of dying or anything nowadays. This one right here is just an AoE tank of everything, and then the Chrome comes. The hard one is Romeo and Juliet, because you still have to kill them at the same time, and that's kind of hard to do when you can blow them down in like 30 seconds. So crits and things like that can really extend that fight as they res each other if you're not really watching. So which is sad because they drop the best loot of any of these. Of course, Juliet, she drops Despair, which is a two-handed sword that a lot of people will be looking to transmog. Um, and there's not really much else that you get from this. There's some ruby slippers that are nice, but just check out the link in the notes to see what everybody drops. Now the mobs right after this, they actually used to drop a lot of money and they were nerfed. The mobs between the opera event and the curator, and that's kind of sad. But the curator, once you clear out his little room, is just a tank and spank. Now you can pretty much safely ignore the little sparks and everything. You'll notice I switched to DPS spec just to get him down a little faster. I just tang him right at the end of the hall too, because he doesn't really do anything, because your level advantage kind of disregards the mechanics of his fight. So this one was very nice to do. Back at 70 though, he drops the tier 4 gloves if you're going for your tier 4 set, and I don't know much else. He drops a staff that really doesn't look that great to me, but the next boss is Ilhoof. Now he drops a staff that is pretty much famous nowadays for being the tentacle staff. So if you're wanting like a crazy staff for transmog, this is your guy right here. He also drops another enchant, but you can't really make money off of it like you can Mongoose. He's just a tank and spank as well. You'll notice I stayed in DPS spec here just to burn him down. He'll summon a lot of these little guys, but they all go away once he's dead. So just ignore them and burn him down really quick. Again, this is another one where the mechanics of the fight really don't matter anymore now that you're 85. Shade of Iran, he's used to be fun for melee because they did the most damage, which is fairly rare at that time. But again, he's just, at this point, you just tank him down. Right here I even ignore his arcane explosion, which used to be quite deadly back in the day. I just continue beating him up during it. Just ignore the little elementals that spawn when he's at 40% as well, because they despawn once he's dead. You can still get rid of his magic as he casts it. You can interrupt all of that, but it really doesn't matter nowadays. And he also doesn't drop that much that was of any interest that I could see for transmog purposes. But he is required if you're wanting to teleport up to this part of the dungeon. Nether Spite is one of my favorite bosses. He goes down so quick, but a lot of people just assume that you can't do him because of the beams, but the beams really make him like the easiest boss to solo. If you can't solo anything ever, this is the boss you can solo, because literally you don't have to look at your health. You do 3 times as much DPS as you normally would, and you just stand in one spot. So I don't care what class you are or anything, you're getting him down. He also drops the Spike Blade, I believe it's called, which is one of the best one-handed sword animations of that time period, the BC period. The only other way you can get it is from BOE off the world boss in Hellfire, which is going to be quite rare. The next to last boss, or some people call it the last boss in the Karazhan is up on the roof, the prince here. The only time you really have to be back against the wall fighting him is when he's casting his Shadow Nova so he doesn't throw you around. So you'll see me about halfway through the video step off so you can get a better view. The Infernals you pretty much can just ignore unless one of them drops right down in your face for whatever reason. I went back to my normal Prot spec because in his second form he can do a little bit more damage than normal, but you can probably just DPS him down at this point as well if you have adequate healing cooldowns or anything like that. He drops first of all your helm for your tier 4 if you're going for tier sets, and he also drops some weapons that are quite unique, like a blood elf looking bow and some other things like a paladin mace kind of deal. But he does take a little bit longer to down than everything else. You'll notice that I skipped the chest event getting up here. I will put that in its own video. I think not only did it make the video run a little long putting it in with everything else, but I kind of wanted it to be its own video because it does take a little bit of strategy to get through that solo. It's not like everything else where since you're fighting stuff you can kind of just go through based on, you own everything. You do have to still have a little strategy there. So look for it in its own video coming up pretty soon. You'll see right there I actually took the Shadow Nova like I was telling you should. Nightbane I've always considered to be the last boss of Karazhan, just because he dropped the coolest stuff and you had to do the quest to do him back in the day. I do actually cut out a bit of the fight here because it does run a little long. He does have the most health of any boss in Karazhan by about 200,000. Just step out of the little earths when he summons them, just to kind of take the damage you're taking down a little bit. Other than that, it's pretty much a tank and spank until he goes into the air like that, and he'll summon some skeletons. And once you kill them, he comes back to the ground pretty quick. You don't have to wait out the full air phase like at 70. If you kill these quick enough, he'll come on back down. And they take pretty much, for me here, even with no gear, they're taking like 1 or 2 Hammer of the Righteous to take down. And of course, you can still aggro him with long range abilities while you're going. And I skipped all the way to the end of the last air phase. He does 3 air phases. Nightbane's mostly people will be going after him because of the shields he drops. He used to drop 2 great shields, one spellcaster, one tanking type shield. They both have wonderful animations, so I would check them out. One of them's real nice and black, and the other one is a dragon that shoots fire.